Breaking news that's happening all over Hollywood that I'm sure a lot of people are finding out right now is that Eddie Murphy is going to be hosting this year's Oscar Awards for 2012. Now, I'm gonna get to some of Eddie. I'm gonna get to Eddie Murphy in a minute, but I was rather shocked and surprised that Eddie Murphy was going to be hosting the show. I thought, they were going to go with either Billy Crystal or Chris Rock or some of the, old timers that were doing the show to make up for the James Franco and Hashaway drama that happened there. But you know something? Obviously, they're going to go with Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy has accepted the challenge. And you know something? I'm sure a lot of people are going to be checking out this show. You know something? I was surprised that Eddie Murphy was going to take the host of the show. Because to tell you the truth, he hasn't done stand-up comedy in a long, long time. He's done a lot of... Some people have felt like Eddie Murphy has sold out comedy. He's done a lot of those, like, cartoon films like Shrek. And he's trying to... I heard that they're thinking about using his voice for Kung Fu Louie. One of the older one of the older cartoon films, or cartoon character TV shows that was on TV years ago, and they're bringing it back. But I think, and something, I'm going to be honest with you, I think that Eddie Murphy's making a big mistake because, it's been a long time that he's done a actual stand-up show, and there's a lot of pressure when you're doing a show like that. But something, I don't know. I didn't think he was gonna host the show. I honestly thought that because they didn't give him an Oscar for Dreamgirls, I thought that he was gonna be bitter because the Oscars kind of cheated him out. And something, Eddie Murphy was due for an Oscar for a long time. I mean, if you look at the performances he's done, 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, if you check out those films, they're brilliant performances. And something, why hasn't this man won an Oscar yet? I'll admit, some of his later films, they suck like ass, and to do a movie like that. But for the most part, I was rather shocked that Eddie Murphy was doing something like this. Really, I mean, what made me surprised about Eddie Murphy was because I thought that they were gonna pick, like, some younger comedian. I mean, something, I'm gonna tell you something about the Oscars. The Oscars show is finally doing something right. They're not going with the movie star thing, because the movie star thing, we tried that a couple of years and they all suck. I mean, Hugh Jackman, he sucked. Anne Hashaway, whatever the hell the bitch's name is, she sucked. James Franco, give me a fucking break. I mean, he's still justifying it. And something, I think finally they say, you know what, we tried the movie stars, they can't do it. I mean, we tried younger movie stars, they can't do it. Obviously, this show has to be hosted by a comedian. Now, the question is, which comedian be willing to try this challenge? Because, you gotta entertain people for 4 hours. Sometimes 5 hours, depending on how long the show is. I mean, if it's a predictable Oscar show, it'll be a little shorter. But, Eddie has a big challenge. And something, obviously Eddie's probably getting paid, so they're going to pay him big money. But I would have thought that Eddie would have said no. Because, something, he hasn't done stand-up in a long time. And, I guess he figured, what, they asked me, and, it's something that he'd be willing to do. And something, Eddie is funny as hell. I'm not going to lie on you. Eddie does get up there, and he knows how to entertain people, and he's been doing it his entire career. But something, let's be real too. I mean, lately he's done nothing but cartoons and children's films. So for him to host the show, it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of off his game. That's like saying, like, okay, you know what? Say Jay-Z was asked to host the Oscars, right? This is the man who his talent is doing music. Jay-Z don't know nothing about hosting the Oscars. And you know something, you know, you can't put somebody on there who doesn't know how to do it or hasn't done it in a long time. Because Eddie hasn't done comedy in a long time. You know, you got to start putting people on there who are hot right now. You know, personally, a lot of people have said, why not Tina Fey host the show? You know, she's new, she's contemporary. But you know something, they wanna get Eddie Murphy to do it. And you know something, you know, Eddie be willing to do it, but is Eddie gonna be Eddie Murphy from the 80s? Or is he gonna be Eddie Murphy, you know, children, you know, trying to do Gumby and that shit? I mean, you know, come on, Ed. You know, I'm worried about you because you know what? You make a lot of money, and you make a lot of money from your, you know, Murphy Productions, and you know, you got your own production company, and you doing your own thing. But dogs, I don't know. Hosting the Oscars, you haven't done it in years. And this is like an open letter from me to him, from, you know, to talking to Eddie, because you know something, I think the problem is that when you do an Oscar show, you know, maybe he can pull it off, you know, but it depends on who Eddie is on stand-up. Because right now, people are saying, you know what, be the Eddie Murphy that you were back in the 80s where you didn't give a fuck about nobody. Don't be the Eddie Murphy now that has to kiss up to Hollywood to get an Oscar. So you got to be careful with that, because, you know, if you're going up there and you're all about getting an Oscar, because let's be real, if you win an Oscar, that's like the ultimate gold in winning in Hollywood. But you know something, I'm happy for Eddie, don't get me wrong on it, because you know something, finally we're going back to the original origin of how the Oscars should be done. Because to tell you the truth, James Franco, he's still crying about it. He's still up there, oh, you know, I don't know why I sucked at the show, and you know, I don't know why people are so critical, and you know, it's like, you know what, you fucking suck, dog. I mean, James, you can explain this all you want, you fucking suck. And you know something, Anne Hathaway, I hope Eddie just does this act by himself, because you don't need that broad on there. I mean, she's forever all over the place. I mean, she'll have plenty of airtime when fucking Batman comes out, so let her calm down a bit too. But Eddie, you know something, if you're going to be doing this show solo for 4 hours, I'm going to tell you one thing, you got to be contemporary on your comedy, and you got to be the Eddie Murphy when you were back in the 80s. Because that's what I love about him, because when he was Eddie Murphy back in the 80s, like Richard Pryor, Martin Lawrence, and Chappelle, you know, they don't give a fuck. So, I don't know, I just, you know, I'm a little concerned about this Oscar show, but as the Oscars keep going on and on, you know, as the show gets closer, is what I'm saying, is that maybe you can pull this off. But you know something, the Oscars is going back to its roots, because the last couple of years the show sucked, and you know, I hate where the show was going. You know, it's not really a great show anyway, but you know something, it sucked for the last couple of years. I mean, you know, I like that Chris Rock was on the Oscars, and you know, you had Jon Stewart, and you know, he talked about the Jews, and you know, it was kind of funny that, you know, you could talk about certain races and certain groups of people. But Eddie, you know, this is a big step for you, because this is your time. If you pull this off at the Oscars, you have shown us that you are one of the greatest legends in comedy, that you can host this crazy show that no one can seem to get it right. If you fuck up this show and you can't make anybody laugh, and you basically need Billy Crystal to come on the show, then we are in trouble. So Eddie, you got a lot of pressure on you, but you know what? You've been here before, and I'm rooting for you, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a mistake you doing the show. Because they're gonna blame you if the show sucked. Because they figure you're a comedian, you should be able to make us laugh. So, you know, when you get up there, make fun of Christian Bale, make fun of Steven Spielberg, do what you do when you do your shows, like you do a Raw and everything else. Talk about the world, talk about what's going on, and you know something, you know, I'm rooting for you, dog, but you know, I hope that you pull this off, because right now, you know, the world's talking about it, and you know, it's been a while since you did stand up. So good luck on your show when you do the Oscars, you know, but I'll tell you the truth though, my fingers are crossed on you because right now you haven't done this in years. So, you know, tell me what you think because, you know, do you think that Eddie Murphy's making a big mistake, and do you think he should just chill, let someone else do it, and then let them take the fault if they mess up the show? Or do you think Eddie should go for it and let the world see that he's still one of the top comics of our time? So, hit me up, tell me what you think, and for the most part, again, Eddie, you know, I'm still surprised that you took the job, but you know something? My personal opinion, be the Eddie that you were back in the day. And believe me, you will definitely make it work if you're that Eddie Murphy.